Now to continue on with my dad and the USS Bullard. Next stop on this United States Navy hit parade was Saipan, Tinian, and Guam. The Japanese Imperial Air Force tried again, and this time the Bullard got her share, which were 2 twin-engine torpedo planes. In November 1944, the Bullard came home for its first stateside liberty for her men, as well as a much-needed overhaul. Off California, she trained future destroyer sailors, and then in February, she steamed out of the Golden Gate towards 71 days of hell, north of the place with the strange name of Okinawa. Rabaul was like a preliminary of things to come, for off Okinawa, destroyers and the Bullard's division in particular became the favorite of the most soul-trying demons in warfare's history up to that point. The suicidal Japanese special attack, also known as kamikaze pilots. I believe it had to take so much guts to face them. It also took so much skill to blast them from the skies. To me, it seems rather simplistic in theory. The kamikaze pilots wanted to die. My dad and all the men of the Bullard wanted to live. History shows they both got what they wanted. Each dawn, the Bullard and a few other destroyers would steam north to the main body of Halsey's famed Task Force 58 to place themselves between the kamikazes and the Navy's valuable and vulnerable carriers. I mentioned earlier that the Bullard did a lot of picket duty. The mission of these picket destroyers was to detect enemy air raids, to intercept those raids, to destroy the attacking planes, and, finally, to absorb the death blows of the suiciders, rather than let a kamikaze plunge into the precious capital ships to their south. There was no easy job, and for us not there, it must have been a very terrifying experience. The kamikazes were after any triumph, even in death. The suiciders went after the Bullard's isolated picket group, time and time again. They hit and badly damaged the Bullard's sister ship, another destroyer, and almost hit the Bullard. Once a kamikaze sheared off a wing on an after gun, and then rolled past to splash a few yards to starboard. Another exploded so close aboard that the ship's doctor later picked up parts of the pilot's body from the gasoline-splattered deck. 16 times, Japanese planes, almost all the lethal suicide variety, attacked the Bullard's group of spunky tin cans, as the destroyer escorts were called. The Bullard came through and continued to do her job of helping to prevent full-size attacks on the carrier groups. The Bullard had bagged her first plane of the Okinawa operation just south of the Japanese homeland on March 18th during the carrier strikes against the Kyushu airfields. A twin-engine Betty came down to find out what manner of ships were these that approached their hallowed shores. She found out. The next morning, the Bullard and the USS Kidd were 11 miles off Shikoku, one of the 4 home islands which was an unheard effrontery at that time. The next day, Radio Tokyo solemnly announced the following, quote, the two United States destroyers that were so insolent as to approach within 11 miles of the Japanese mainland were promptly sunk, end quote. The crew of the Bullard probably would have laughed at that stupid message if they had not been so tired. They had been up all night alongside the USS Franklin, fighting fires on the hangar deck during the carrier's immortal battle to survive. An ironic twist here is that at that time, my dad's nephew was, I believe, an ensign aboard the Franklin. Small world. The Bullard, including my dad, had many odd jobs. One included several rescues of American pilots, destruction of enemy mines, and the attempted rescue of a Japanese pilot. The Japanese pilot, perched on a rust-colored life raft, answered Captain Freund's invitation to come aboard by leveling a pistol at the bridge of the Bullard. The Japanese pilot was buried at sea. I will show you a piece of that life raft and a portion of the sleeve of the Japanese pilot. After a short rest, the Bullard was back off Japan on July 10 with Admiral Halsey's tough Third Fleet helping deliver the knockout blow. After supporting carrier strikes against Tokyo, the Bullard steamed in for the first naval bombardment of the Japanese homeland against the Steel City of Kamiyashi on July 14th. She also took part in the later carrier strikes and in the bombardments of Hamamatsu, Honshu on July 30th and Kamiyashi again on August 9th. Dad told me he remembered how brilliant the glow of the lethal rockets leaving the ships into the sky. Many times he'd mentioned the vivid colors connected with the rockets, truly an incredible sight he used to reveal. And where was the Bullard on that great day of August 15, Tokyo time, when the Japanese gave up? She was out on picket duty on the picket line with 3 other destroyers about 100 miles from Tokyo, in position to give early warning of Japanese air attacks and, if necessary, to take the brunt of those attacks. Early that morning, the crew got word that the war was over. However, early that afternoon, a Japanese pilot came diving out of the clouds, bent on committing suicide on the Bullard's bridge. The first 5-inch salvo knocked off the Judy's tail, but her pilot almost regained control and, flying upside down, flew toward the Bullard. A few more rounds landed him in the Pacific, a safe 200 yards astern of the Bullard. And so the USS Bullard's score with Japan was written: 6 battle stars, 11 planes shot down with 6 other additional assists, 6 shore bombardments, 24 mines destroyed, 24 American aircraft personnel rescued, scores of other tough jobs all well done, and probably so much more that we will never know. My dad was just one of the grunts who made it all happen, just a piece of the puzzle, one of the working parts. He was on the deck division, a gunner's mate, and also the ship's mailman. Dad talked about getting his sea legs, about sleeping on coils of ropes on the deck whenever he could, the stormy weather, working the ammo room, and also being the Bullard's mailman. Exhibit 12 are 2 ashtrays made from 40mm Mk2 Service Lot 25 cannon shells, inscribed with USS Bullard, DD660. The cigarette holders are made from 1944 copper pennies. Dad told me about the time that somehow their bags of mail wound up in Tsingtao, China. He was authorized to go aboard a tender of some sort, to go ashore to pick up bags of mail which were left for the Bullard in some kind of mail mix-up. There was an officer and 3 enlisted men aboard the small craft. When leaving shore, this small boat got hung up, and the officer told the 3 enlisted men to jump over and push the boat free. 2 of the guys did. My dad did not. When the officer told him that he was no prima donna, Dad told the officer the bags of mail were his responsibility. He was not going to leave them. Good story. However, the real story is Dad never knew how to swim. Dad always laughed about that, saying that he was never going to leave the security of that little boat to jump into the deep, cold water. Exhibit 13 is the actual certificate of satisfactory service, United States Navy. This is to certify that 923-93-71, Leonard Martin, mailman 3rd class, U.S. Navy Reserve, has served and satisfactorily completed a period of training and service on active duty in the United States Navy, World War II, signed by R.L. Holloway, CSC, United States Navy. Exhibit 14 is a certificate with seal, showing Dad is authorized to wear the American Area Ribbon, Asiatic Pacific Area with 3 battle stars, the Philippine Liberation Ribbon, and World War II Victory Medal. Exhibit 15 is a picture of Dad in uniform with his ribbons. Exhibit 16 and 17, 2 pictures of Dad in uniform. Exhibit 18, Certificate C1616-096, Honorable Discharge from the United States Navy, dated February 1946. Exhibit 19, with seal, recording from the state of Pennsylvania, County of Allegheny, on the 18th day of February, A.D., 1946, in Service Discharge Book, Volume 78, page 22, and signed by Anthony J. Gerard, Recorder. Exhibit 20, Notice of Separation from the United States Naval Service, Navy Personnel-553 for 923-93-71 Martin Leonard, including the remarks: Point System, Victory Medal, American Campaign, Asiatic Pacific, 3 stars, Philippine Liberation. Signed by W.J. Luddy, Lieutenant J.G., United States Navy Reserve. Exhibit 21, from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, World War II, Veterans Compensation Fund, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, batch number 64247, authorizing Dad to receive $320 for his domestic and foreign service. Exhibit 22, Membership Medal ID card showing Dad to be a life member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And in conclusion, Exhibit 23 is the actual United States flag that draped my dad's casket on February 24, 1996. Thank you for allowing me to present the USS Bullard DD660 and my dad's story.